Hello, my astrology friends, and welcome to your October 2025 astrological forecast. In this video, I am going to take an overview of what to expect for October. And in the second part, for all 12 zodiac signs and your rising signs, so your sun and rising signs, I'm also going to take a look at the coming 4 weeks for you. Before I get started, please subscribe to the channel. And also like the video. All helps to spread the word of astrology. Okay, so let's get started with the overview. So October is quite a month, and it's been we just come on the back of September, which we've had the eclipses that have been going on, so that's been very dramatic. A lot's happened. So what could we expect in October? The first thing I want to say is that we still have a lot of planets that are retrograde. Saturn at the start, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto are all retrograde, as well as the asteroid Chiron. Pluto does move forward around about the 13th of October. That moves direct, and that's at 1 degree in Aquarius. So if you've got planets at 1 degrees in the fixed signs, that is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, then this is going to help you this particular moving forward quite a bit. We've got Mercury starts off at Libra, and then around about the 7th goes into Scorpio. Venus starts off in Virgo, which is not exactly too comfortable in, but then goes around about the 13th, 14th into Libra, which is in its rulership. And Mars is now really continuing its journey through Scorpio, where it's in its traditional rulership as well. So Mars is in a good position. And as for Saturn, we've got Saturn that's now back into Pisces, starts at around about 27 degrees, and at the end of the month it's at 25 degrees. Plus we've got Uranus continuing its transit but backwards into Gemini, and Neptune is also at the start in Aries, but it moves back into Pisces around about the 21st, 22nd, and Pluto of course is in Aquarius. So we've got a lot of retrogrades that are happening. We've also got the full moon on the 7th, that's got Aries at 14 degrees, and then we've got on the 21st we've got a new moon at 28 degrees in Libra. So we've got kind of a lot to kind of contend with here, and I think that's one of the things that we've got to sort of look at with this. Jupiter is also really it's gone through an amazing pace through Cancer since it went in there in early June, and it you know, it ends at 24 degrees in Cancer before it is going to go retrograde in November. But you know, it's really picking up the pace. It's nearly covered the whole zodiac sign, which I think is kind of really interesting, because it means that there's a lot of stuff happening in a short space of time in terms of world events. Particularly to do with foreign policies, because Jupiter, that's what it rules. So it's really bringing out a lot of energy towards that here. And it's one of those kind of funny kind of months that I think is a little bit sort of stop and start. Venus, let's talk about Venus. Venus around about 12th, 13th is going to be opposing Saturn. I'm not too concerned about that, but if you're a strong Venusian character or got a lot of Venus in your chart, you might feel a bit constrained at that particular time and a little bit sort of difficulty. Right at the beginning of the month, we've still got, even though that Mars is at 6 degrees in Scorpio and Pluto's at 1 degree in Aquarius, we've still got that sort of heavy square. It's 6 degrees orb, but it's still having an impact on the world. A lot of the events towards the end of September would have brought out a lot of tension, and this continues into the early part of October, where it kind of really sort of takes hold. And I think that for a lot of us it's going to feel like one of these months where things are everything seems to be exaggerated, everything seems to be magnified. On the plus, I think we can get a lot of positivity over this particular October. If you're working on an individual or working with a close knit of people, there's a lot that can be achieved at this particular period of time, and I think that helps things kind of move forward. And I feel like, you know, that Mercury and Scorpio, particularly, which around about the sort of the middle of the month is going to be making a conjunction with Mars, is quite significant about concentrated energy and getting things done in a way that is far different to what we've experienced before from a political, economic sort of aspect here. Because when you've got planets going backwards, it usually means that things are sort of on repeat, or it feels like that. So we just got to be a little bit kind of careful of that. But, you know, for me, looking at the full moon and new moon in Aries and Libra, that's all about the individual and relationships of other people. And from a big scale of things, how diplomatic are we going to be with other countries, and foreign policies particularly coming up very, very strong. Okay, let's go into the sun sign stroke rising sign for the 12 zodiac signs. So this next section, this is going to be for Aries sun sign or Aries rising. Okay, right. First of all, you've got a full moon at 14 degrees in your own sign on the 7th. That always brings in a kind of a sense of things coming up to the surface that maybe you need to be dealing with. Aries have had a lot going on. They've had, you know, Neptune, which is still traveling in your own zodiac sign, although, and Aries might be pleased about this, it is going backwards, and around about the 21st, 22nd, it goes back into Pisces. Saturn has left you for a couple of months. That's back in Pisces here. So again, you've got this kind of energy that's been around you for the last couple of months starting to sort of dilute a little bit, and actually feeling maybe not as responsible or duty bound, or oh, I've got to make decisions. This is really important for me. Jupiter in Cancer is going through your 4th house. So if there's house moves or things that you're looking at to do with that area, that's come up an awful lot with Aries, or wanting to make a move, or actually in the process of moving. Here that's taking place. The main one I say is the Pluto going direct around about the 13th of October, and for me, I think that's kind of important in terms of friendships, in terms of bringing people together, in terms of the collective here. But one of the things about Aries that they've got to just be very aware of other people's motivations. And I think this has been the tune that they've been dancing to for the last 3 or 4 months, how other people react to them, and how that dynamic can get a little bit confused at times, and it could be a grey area. And Aries likes to be direct and likes to tell people, you know, give it to them straight and stuff like that. Hasn't been able to do that as much as it would like, and has got frustrated with that. So you have to be a little bit careful of that kind of energy that's sort of around you at the moment, because that's quite a difficult kind of place to be. Your Mars, your traditional ruler, is, you know, doing well in Scorpio, although it's in what we call aversion to your 1st house. It's in the 8th house, and it's working on the therapeutic level. It can cause worry, and listen, Aries, you're going to have to find a way, an outlet for that, because you know, whether it's through physical exercise, meditation, spiritual practice, creativity, you will, because there's a lot of energy that's around you, but you feel, oh, where do I put this energy? Where do I get rid of it? And I think that for a lot of you, we just got to be very aware that this is a time period when it's about learning how energetic you can be, and how you can focus that energy and actually get quite a lot done. But you need to be aware of it and conscious of it, and not just sort of like, oh, it's a sort of nagging feeling in the background, I don't know what to do with this. Be aware that you need to know how to deal with that. So for Aries, it's a month of, I would say, doing a lot of the shadow work, you know, working on what really makes you tick, and doing that, and understanding your more shadow aspects of your personality is going to really give you the strength, the purpose, and the focus to make good, clean decisions in life. Okay, let's go into Taurus. Taurus sun sign, Taurus rising. I talked about a lot of to do with the, excuse me, got a bit of a dry throat, and I'm doing Taurus. How apt. Right. Okay, Taurians. First of all, Mars. Mars is in your opposite sign of Scorpio. So that's in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships. When Mars transits in there, that's where a lot of your assertiveness needs to come in towards other people in your life? Are they being too dominant or assertive over you? Do you need to put your assertiveness on them and put your boundaries in place? Very important. But with Mars, it's delicate. You know, you be too assertive, people could think you're too aggressive. If you're too passive, that assertiveness is just going to go internalize itself, and therefore you're just going to get really, really frustrated, and then you explode like a bull in a china shop. So it's kind of like very kind of this delicate balance that you're kind of going through at the moment for you. Your ruler Venus in the first couple of weeks is in Virgo, which is nicely placed for you. It's a fellow Earth sign. And then it goes into Libra, which is kind of like, you know, what I call the house of health and service to others and your working environment. And it's in its rulership of Libra, but in the sixth house, it doesn't bode so well. It's a little bit sort of tricky. So again, how we're working with other people is going to be your thing. There's a lot of, I can't say that, I have to be careful what I say. There's a lot of that sort of taking place. And I think that's where Taurians are going to find it a little bit difficult treading that kind of path. And with so much energy in Scorpio, your opposite sign, including you've got Mercury in there as well, particularly around about the middle of the month. That's when communication is going to be absolutely key. But when you're dealing with your opposite sign, and I always say this, the opposite sign, if you're a Taurus, then you're also a Scorpio, because you're working on the polarity point. You know, and the worst aspects of Scorpio can be the aspects of a Taurus, which can be a little bit self-destructive if they're pushed. And I feel like that this is kind of the one thing. If you feel pushed, you're going to really kind of charge at it, and you're going to cause more destruction. And then you're going to have to pick up the pieces and put it together. And then you're going to kind of feel like, well, you know, I got pushed and this is what happened. So it's a very delicate balance that's sort of taking place here. And if you're an early degree Taurus, you're born around about May the 21st, 22nd, April the 21st, April the 22nd, then you've also got Pluto squaring your sun, which is kind of like you're just infiltrated by other people's stuff and other people's power battles and find it very difficult. So the upshot of it is it an easy place for Taurus? It's a tricky month actually for a lot of Taurians. You know, and I feel like it's walking this kind of tightrope almost of trying to get a balance between being assertive but also listening to other people. Okay, Gemini Sun, Gemini Rising. Okay, Geminians, let's have a look at your ruling planet Mercury. Okay, so Mercury is at the start for the first few days is in Libra, then it switches into Scorpio, which is kind of interesting because it's going to go into your solar sixth house, which rules your working environment, parts of how you look after yourself, the digestive system, being at service to others, you know, what I call the mundane aspects of life. So when Mercury transits there, it's usually a busy time that we have doing mundane aspects, going here, there, and everywhere. Geminis won't. That's not unsettling for Geminis. They like to be busy as a general rule. But then you have to come under the idea of how do you look after yourself? How do you kind of take care of your needs here? And are you rushing around in too many different directions and not actually doing enough? I mean, that's part of the sort of the big picture of it, I feel. And that's very, very strong around this particular area. So that's where I would come in with this one. There is a kind of a sense of things needing to kind of keep yourself busy, but also take time out for yourself and your particular needs being really, really kind of important for you. Jupiter is rocketing through your solar second house, the financial house, the value. So there's lots of gain, lots of projects, lots of possibilities. How I make this money, how I make that, what am I going to do? Big concepts that are really kind of coming through here. And that's going to be really kind of nice. In the second part of the month, particularly from the 14th, Venus is in lovely position in Libra. That really kind of helps you because it's in your solar fifth house, the place of enjoyment and social occasion and creativity, self-expression, that kind of eases this kind of need to keep busy, but also to start to begin to focus on oneself a lot better. You know, if though you're a late degree Gemini, so you're born right at the end of the sun in Gemini, that would be you know, around about the sort of 19th 20th of June, then you're being hit by Saturn, and you know that navigating through that is that social and societal pressures of having to get things done is quite a big thing at the moment. But for Geminis, I think this is just a very busy, mundane month of lots happening, and having to deal with the details of life, you know, paying invoices, paying bills, you know, dealing with work matters that are quite boring. And Geminis do not like to be bored. But if you do it, then you can start to enjoy the second half of the month. Okay, Cancer, Sun, Cancer rising. This is, again, Cancers are ruled by the moon. It's a lot about the full moon and new moon. The full moon and new moon is in Aries and Libra on the 7th, full moon on the 21st. You've got a new moon. They are both cardinal signs like yourself. That means that they're very active for yourself, which basically means they're happening between the 10th and the 4th solar houses, which are the career and the home life. So the career one is really focused on the 7th of October, and that might be feeling of endings coming to in terms of career. Or aspirations, or something happens around that time that kind of moves you into a slightly different direction. And on the 21st, that falls in your 4th house, which is the home environment and family matters that may come to, or a new start here. Is it that you've got a new venture coming up with work that is slightly working from home for you Cancerians, or wanting to push forward to work from home a lot more? Look at this new moon and full moon is going to activate that during the month an awful lot. And you know, Cancerians have got this Jupiter traveling through their own sign of zodiac, so you know they're all looking at expansion at the moment. They're all looking at ways to have a bit more freedom in the self-expression, but also in the working environment and indeed the home. So they're really kind of looking at that for October. Big month. Most of the sun is in your 4th house in Libra. So again, it emphasizes the home environment, the family, the nurturing aspect for you. This is a very, very busy, direct, external month where a lot for you Cancerians happens in a very short space of time. And I think you're going to get an actual lot of that. And by the end of the month, you should have a clear idea of where you're going, what's happening, and how you can move forward from that. Okay, let's go into Leo Sun, Leo rising. It's an interesting one for the Leos this month. I mean, you know, the sun is in Libra for the majority for the first 3 weeks, and that's your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. So a lot of focus on there, but also family matters. Mars is going to be in your 4th house, as is Mercury here. So family matters, home environments, a lot of focus on that. Maybe slightly retreating from the world or needing to recharge one's batteries is going to be a bit of a feature for you during this particular month. It's certainly a month where I feel like you will rest a little bit easier. I've often talked about Pluto, particularly for you early degrees, you know, people born in the very early degrees, 24th, 25th, 26th of July. You've been working with the Pluto factor an awful lot, so that's had quite an impact on you psychologically. But I really think this is slightly retreating here for the majority of you before things get very busy, particularly in the career. November's a big month for you for career for Leos. But I think for a majority of you, there is this sense of things unconsciously in the background, and this is mainly down to Jupiter, sort of stirring your imagination and looking for ways to get a balance between the material life and what we call a spiritual or imagination or creative life. And I think that's starting to sort of become much more apparent that the creative side of you is becoming a lot more active than it has been for some time. You may not know how to use it or what to do with it, but it's becoming stronger and stronger. Okay, let's go to Virgo Sun and Virgo Rising. Mercury, your ruler, is busy. First couple of days, it's in your second house, finances, sorting out those. Then from the 7th, which ironically is on a full moon, it's going to go into your third house, which is the house of communication, the house of short distance travel. So that's quite a busy kind of time for you that's taking place here. And I think that's kind of really important because you've got Mercury and you've got Mars there. And you may feel a need to sort of go in too many directions all at the same time. Virgos can have a tendency to do this. It's all about planning, how to move forward, how to make sure that you're not getting yourself tied in knots by being over analytical in what to do next, how to do next, and what's the best sort of way forward here for you. Saturn coming back into Pisces is your opposite sign, and that is the relationship. So you're delving back into past relationships, or trying to tie up the loose ends of relationships that have gone a little bit wayward over the last couple of months, and needing to repatch things up or put structure on them or put boundaries on them. But the thing about that, the only way you can actually do that in a way that's going to help you is by sort of, you know, forgive and forget, and sort of moving on slightly and putting new boundaries on instead of putting old boundaries on. That's not going to help you in this situation at all. And that's where Saturn, the taskmaster, really begins to add to it in a sense of getting you to look at the other people and their behavior and how you respond to that behavior going forward. Also, Neptune is also joining the party in your opposite sign again towards the end of the month. So again, those boundaries, it's the dichotomy between putting boundaries in and not putting boundaries in. Very, very delicate balance. I think Virgos can do that, but they just have to know their own motivations and how other people take to them and how they respond to other people's needs. Okay, let's go Libra Sun, Libra Rising. Okay, a lot going on. It's for a majority of you, it's your birthday month. First of all, you've got a full moon in your 7th house, the relationship house, the house of other people. That happens on the 7th in Aries, 14 degrees. Now, that is quite a big one, actually. You know, working with other people and being receptive and open to other people's ideas, exchanges, views, and people coming towards you. You know, Librans love working with others. But sometimes they can kind of feel that they're on the outside and they need to be brought in. That's the fire of Aries, the opposite side, and it helps that. This is all going to come to a head on the 21st when there's a new moon in your own sign, which really means that that's the new start. That's your kind of the start of your year, astrologically speaking. And so there's this 2-week period of working with the full moon and new moon that's going to be very, very powerful for you, and understanding the dynamics of working with other people, being cooperative, and getting the best from other people. You know, it is the case that flattery at this point for Librans will get you everywhere at this particular point in the astrological wheel of October. And it's understanding that will be really kind of important for you. And it is your birthday month, so there is a slightly celebratory aspect to this in understanding your placement, where you are on a journey. It's about being open. It's about not cast yourself to one side, but to allow others to bring you in, particularly on a social level. Okay, Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Rising. Wow, lots going on. Your planet, your traditional ruler, the planet Mars, is traveling in your own sign of zodiac. Plus, you've got Mercury as well for the majority of the month. A very active month for you Scorpios. Lots going on in your first house. Lots of drive, lots of initiative. Lots of new ideas, you know, you could find yourself really at the center of attention, you know, and you may like that, but most of you won't because you're Scorpios. So if you've been trying to work in the background with things, you might find that suddenly you're pushed to the limelight and you're going, well, I don't really want to be this. This is Mars, this is Mercury, and this is what's kind of happening here. And it's using that drive, that determination to get the best out of the situation. So this is about a project. This is about people projecting onto you that you can get on with the job and you can do it. Just be very, very aware of how you kind of work within that, because that's going to be quite a strong totem for the month of determination to get things done in the way that you do that, which is usually uncovering the secrets, uncovering the skeletons in the closet, getting to the details and transforming those details into something positive. That's what's going to really kind of work for you. Big month for you, Scorpios, a lot going on. Okay, Sagittarius Sun, Sagittarius Rising. Jupiter, we talked about it, it's in Cancer, weaving its magic in your 8th house. You may not be seeing it straight away, but you will appreciate it by the time we go into the second, by the time we go into next year, 2026. Okay. There's a lot of unconscious stuff happening here. And what I mean is great for spiritual practice, great for yoga, great for meditation, or any kind of exercise where you're going beyond the ordinary, you're transcending beyond the ordinary. Sagittarius is a zodiac sign that likes to move forward. It's a movement side, it's a mutable side, it's a fire side. And yet there's all this stuff in the background. There's particularly Mars and Mercury in your 12th house. And the 12th house is known as the house of self-undoing, which basically means we can be our worst own enemy if we're not careful. And when we're dealing with Mars, we're dealing with the energy of what we do with anger, what we do with frustration. And do we externalize it or do we internalize it? And we've got the planet Mercury as well, that's also in there. So that's kind of like a little bit of a double whammy for you, working on that unconscious and subconscious, working through solutions to issues and problems that you have through your dreams, and working through the symbolism of them is really going to be a big help for you. You know, you're preparing, or the soul is preparing for a very busy November for you guys. So, you know, it might feel a little bit quiet, but actually it's not. There's a lot happening in the background here that's taking place. And I think that's where it's kind of, that's where a lot of inner work is going on. On another note, a lot going on in your 4th house. You've got Neptune and you've got Saturn transiting, particularly Neptune at the end of the month. So again, this is a sort of hangover for the last 2.5 years of responsibilities and duty within the home environment, and holding that space for other people to kind of panic and to feel a little bit lost, and for you to sort of become the wise sage, a role that you Saggies like doing, but you know, you might be a little bit, oh God, I'm a bit tired of this. I've been doing this for the last couple of years here. This is the last bout of it before you can have a little bit more fun. So, you know, it might feel like it's gone a bit more serious than you'd like, but it's tidying up the loose ends. Okay, Capricorn Sun, Capricorn Rising. Your ruler Saturn has gone back into Pisces. That's your solar 3rd house. That's the house of communication. I call it the busyness house. It's where we do all our phone calls, our texting, our emails, going on public transport, our neighbours, our siblings. There might be a little bit of reconstructing that aspect of your life again, and you think, well, I've done it, I've been doing this for the last couple of years. Yeah, it's come back in. Okay, putting structure and boundaries on to everyday communication, holding back with your communication, not quite saying what you really kind of feel, is going to be extremely important during this particular phase. We've got the full moon on the 7th being very active on your fourth house, the home. Do not allow you to get carried away with emotions on around those dates of the 6th, 7th, 8th. It's not going to do you any good. You don't need to lose your temper. And then on the 21st, you've got the new moon in your 10th house, which is the house of career. So new starts or new opportunities coming in, or a new sense of things starting again, are very much going to be part of the tune that you've got going on towards the end of the month. Jupiter is really doing nicely in your 7th house. I've talked about this the last few months, relationships and other people and stuff like that. That's working nicely. But yes, be attentive to the full moon and new moon this month. Okay, Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Rising. Both your rulers, Saturn and Uranus, are going backwards at the moment. So Aquarians might feel a little bit like that. But actually, Saturn has gone back into the 2nd house, so concentrate a lot on finances for the next couple of months for you guys. And also Neptune's is going to go back in there as well. So there is this kind of feeling of, been here and done this before. How do you value yourself? You're going to get examples of people coming forward that may not value you as you would like, particularly in your work, and you might have to reassert your authority. The big news, of course, is that around about the 13th, 14th, Pluto goes direct in your own sign. That's a bit of a relief. Things can get moving for you, Aquarians, an awful lot from where they've kind of been. And I think that will kind of help. There is a general trend at the moment, because Uranus is also going backwards, that it's a slower month than you would like. And what I mean by that is you want to do stuff, but you can't. You've got a lot of obligation, a lot of financial stuff to sort out, a lot of work that you're doing this month. And if you accept that it's not a permanent state, that's all a lot to do with that Saturn going back into the Pisces and having to tidy the loose ends up financially and get things in order. So then you've got a little bit more freedom, a little bit more options further down the line. Okay, Pisces Sun, Pisces Rising. Yeah, again, the Saturn back in your own sign, right? Okay, a little bit. Oh, I thought I was moving forward. I thought everything was great. Oh no, I've got to learn the lessons of hard work. I've got to learn the lessons of discipline. I've got to learn the lessons of limitations. That's going to be the totem for Pisces. Also, Neptune's joining in the party as well, back into your own sign around about the 21st, 22nd. Ooh, interesting that, idealism. I could do this, I could do that. Stick with the Saturn. Stick with the self-discipline rather than going back into the Neptunian concepts here is going to be kind of important here. I have to say that you've got this full moon on the 7th of October. That hits your 2nd house, which is the highest of finances. So around about that time, it's a little bit, decisions need to be made about finances and stick with it. And then you've got the Libra aspect. For me, that's on the 21st. That's not so a big one. Doesn't really hit you that much. But the Saturn and Neptune go back into your own sign might be like a little bit of a reminder of some experiences that over the last 2.5 years you've had to learn. And you might find yourself in situations going, well, I was here a year ago back in this same situation. Why am I still back here? You're not. It's just recapping and making sure that those experiences over the last 2.5 years you've taken on board, you've learned, and you're moving forward, and you're not going to go back into that. But you need to be self-disciplined. I need to stick with stuff for October, November, December, and January. Okay, thank you very much. That's it. I'll be back very shortly with more videos. Again, subscribe, like the video, and listen, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a fabulous October 2025.